was getting colder. Isla pulled up the hood of her anorak and sat back on the wooden bench overlooking the Ochwinnay loch. As she waited for her friend Imran to join her, she sighed and looked up at the pinky grey sky. White flecks appeared. Snowflakes, the first snowfall of the year. She watched them gently cascading and put her hands out to catch them. As the snowflakes swirled around her, floating down among them was a large feather, and it landed on her outstretched fingers. It was the most unusual feather she had ever seen. Mostly white, with patches of multicoloured, curly paisley patterns. Out of the corner of her eye, she thought she saw movement, a shimmer of light. Maybe a bird flying towards the woods. She looked back at the feather in her hands and smiled. "Wow," she said softly. "Just amazing." "I know," answered a familiar voice. Imran had arrived. He was holding a paisley feather too. "I found it on the pathway. I was feeling a bit gloomy and it cheered me right up. I thought I saw a bird as big as a swan heading for the woods, but I can't be sure." "Me too," said Isla. "They're beautiful, but how can a bird have paisley pattern feathers?" "Let's go and see," said Imran. "It's still light, we'll be okay." The two friends followed the path around the loch, delicate flakes of snow still falling on their faces. They stuck their tongues out, laughing, trying to catch the snowflakes, as another paisley feather floated down nearby. They turned up the hill and through the gate into the woods with its muddy, leaf-covered footpaths and towering trees. They could hear the sound of distant, gurgling streams, sniff the fragrant air, and see stones of different shapes and sizes dotting the pathway. "Legend has it that these woods are magical," said Imran as they passed huge branches that looked like sleeping serpents with their low, snaking shapes. "That one looks like a unicorn," Isla pointed. "And that one looks like a dog that's got 3 eyes." "Here's another paisley feather," said Imran, crouching down to pick it up. The trees stirred their imaginations further. They could make out floppy-eared puppies, laughing bears, and mischievous faces, wonders all woven over the centuries from the branches, moss and lichen. The snow fell more thickly as they crossed the wooden bridge. "Maybe they all come alive when no one is watching," said Imran. "Don't! You'll make me scared," said Isla. "Woo!" joked Imran, waving his arms around menacingly. "Woo!" replied an echo. Isla and Imran stopped still and stared at each other. "Okay, so now I'm scared. Did you hear that?" "Whoa!" The friends clung onto each other. They heard a rustle and then a thud as something heavy dropped out of a tree and landed directly behind them. It was their pal, Dan, and he was hooting with laughter. "I followed you," he said. "That's not even funny," scolded Isla. He too was holding a paisley feather. Found this. Can I join in? Said Dan, jumping from stone to stone on the path. Dan, can you stop larking about and just walk, please? Said Imran sharply. Can't. I always jump the stones in the woods. I collect them as well. I've got loads at home. Come on then, said Imran impatiently. Further along the path was the most majestic sight of all. They all stopped and stared in awe. Standing out magnificently from the twirling twigs was another creature. It was unmistakably a bird, but larger than any they had ever seen before. It had a hooked beak of vivid lime green moss, a thick branch for its body, mesmerizing eyes of knots in the bark, and long, thin twigs for its wings. Oddly, the snow had settled everywhere except on the bird. Embedded in the path beneath was a stone in the shape of a heart. Isla and Imran were dumbstruck. Dan, still looking for stones to balance on or take home from his collection, pointed. Look! Look at the stone! It's got a strange light coming from it. It must be the sparkle from the snow, said Imran, finding his voice again. No, it's a definite glow, and it's actually throbbing, yelled Dan excitedly. The heart stone beat more strongly as they drew closer. The three friends ran over to a canopy of fallen silver birch branches and hid. Sheltering from the snow, they huddled together and watched and waited with wide-eyed wonder. Soon they heard a gentle caw. Before their eyes, the branch was coming to colourful life. The bird branch eyes turned sapphire blue and sparkled. Its beak of moss shimmered. The branch unfolded into feathers of dazzling colour and paisley patterns. The bird's head tilted, listening to the beating of the heart stone. Its brilliant green beak cawed again. My gran told me about her, Dan whispered, his eyes still fixed on the bird. Who? Asked Isla. Her name is Gloria, and she flies over the village to drop paisley feathers for those who need to see beauty. Gran said that the feathers are really special and are infused with love from the very heart of the woods. But, he added darkly, if the heartstone disappears, Gloria will never fly again. The three friends watched in amazement as the bird branch spread her wings, lifted her head, and took flight. They saw flashes of paisley feathers soar up and over the woods. Dan couldn't resist. He ran forward and lifted the heartstone. It pulsed warmly in his palm and shone with light. What are you doing, Dan? Leave it where it is, said Imran. I need it for my collection, said Dan. No, Dan, you can't take it. You just said, Isla pleaded. But it was too late. Dan ran off with the heartstone. Snow was already beginning to lie on the big branch as bits of bark dropped off, and the moss covering quickly changed its colour from vibrant green to dried out yellow. Isla and Imran stood in shock for a moment. then chased after their friend and his stolen prize. He was at the loch before they caught up with him. "There he is!" shouted Imran. Dan had the heartstone in his hand and was half crouched, ready to skim it on the loch. "Stop!" yelled Isla. "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm bored with it now," said Dan, turning towards them. "It's stopped glowing and it's gone cold. It could just be any old stone, and so I might as well have some fun skimming it instead." "Please don't," begged Isla. "Remember what your gran told you if the stone disappeared? The branches already started to wither and die. Gloria's heart is in the woods, and that's where it must stay. Come on, Dan, you're better than this." Dan looked at his friends' anxious faces. "What right have you got to steal Gloria's heart?" asked Imran. Dan turned the stone over in his hands and thought about what they had both said. He knew that if he didn't return the stone, his friendship with his two best pals would never be the same again. He also knew deep down how upset his gran would be. "You're right, of course, okay, let's take it back," he said. Isla and Imran sighed with relief, and they all headed back to the woods. Dan carefully laid the heartstone back where he had found it. Soon the snow dropped off the branch, the missing pieces of bark grew again, and the moss changed back to its dynamic green. The stone was already beginning to glow, and it throbbed gently. They took it in turns to bow respectfully before turning homewards. The next morning, Isla awoke to see that it was still snowing, but her windowsill was quite bare, except for one thing. There, on the ledge, lay a resplendent paisley feather. And now, if we're really quiet, we can go and see Gloria. Come with me.